Welcome to Breaking 70, Race Against Father Time, Chasing Dreams and Defying Time with Brian Bailie. Hey Golf Cast Nation, this is Brian Bailie bringing you Breaking 70, kind of the bonus episode. Just because I talked about adding some orientations, what I might do is we're going to go into short game next. I might circle back and add maybe a next layer into putting. We're talking some basic fundamentals and setup and components like that. This orientation piece, and maybe I'll add a little bit to that in the coming months so we can expand your knowledge on putting even more. So when we talk about orientations, what are we talking about? We talked about a good setup in the earlier video, right? How to get in a relatively neutral position, in a position that our body wants to move the club properly. And to move the club properly, the putter works on an arc. It comes in, back, and up, goes down, out, and then it'll come back in and up. So it works in three-dimensional space, but it does work on an arc. There's a lot of people that try to move the putter straight. You can create a much straighter path with some really big orientation pieces. And of course, these orientation pieces need to be congruent on what your belief and what you're trying to do. So where I place my elbows, so if you get in your putting position right now, pin your elbows to your side, kind of pull the putter back and through, you're gonna get a nice big old arc, right? Now what if I take that same position of putting, now I take my elbows and go out to 90 degrees, right? So they're running kind of parallel to my target line. Now what does the putter do? That's right, works at a much straighter line. So by putting my arms in a certain position, I can actually create a change in arc, which is really, really massive depending on what we're trying to do. Because remember, we talked about skill training. And if we're doing our skill training work and we're still having trouble matching a couple of the skills we talked about, it could be these larger orientation pieces that will help you achieve that next level. So where I put my arms is massive. That's big time. We're also gonna talk about where we put our head, right? What do we perceive? Perception is huge. If I get over a putt and I know it's straight and I'm standing side on in the putter, in my periphery, I see that I'm aiming right or left of the hole, but I know I'm square, I know I'm straight, everything is true, but I'm perceiving something different. So what happens? Cognitive dissonance. Oh yeah, I know I'm straight, I'm just gonna roll it straight. Some people can function that way. Some people would be like, oh no, I'm aimed right, so they're gonna pull it left. Or, oh my God, I'm aimed left, and they're gonna push it right. But they're aimed square at the hole, so that subtle perception change allows their subconscious to move the club different, and it's gonna result in a missed putt. So where we set our head is massive in the perception and the orientation, right? So the beauty of the head is we can go left or right, we can go up and down, and then we can kind of go in between, right? And the reason we can do that is because our vertebrae at C7 allows our head to work independent of our shoulders, so we don't have to move our torso as we do that. So head position and orientation is really big in perception. And again, a lot of putts can be missed because they're perceiving what they see incorrectly. And the last one we're going to talk about is an orientation. Again, remember, orientation is moving the big pieces, the big segments, and placing them in a different situation to create different results. So the last one would be, how much do we bend at the waist? So when we go into our perfect setup, what happens if we bend more and more at the waist? The more and more flat we get at the waist, the more we can zero out our actual path. And the taller we stand, of course, we create a larger arc. Now, which one's better? Well, Michelle Wie a few years ago tried to bend over at 90 degrees and put the ball perfectly straight. Didn't work really well for her, but hey, that's an option. Or some players stand really, really tall and have this huge arcing stroke. We don't want that either because, again, think of it this way. If you had a door and you're opening and closing, you would have to put that ball perfectly in position that when it basically arcs where it's completely neutral where it hits the ball. If it's a little too far back, it's going to block. If it's a little too far forward, it's going to go left. So we don't want a huge, huge arc, but we don't want a dead straight line as well because this putter is not designed to move straight, right? It's a side-on game, and this thing is at anywhere from 60-some degrees to 70-some degrees, right? So there's a lie angle, so it's gonna want to arc. But we can set up the system by the way we orient our bodies to create that. And like I said, I talked about being congruent, right? If I think the putter is gonna move straighter, what I wanna do is I wanna bend more at the waist at setup, and I wanna take my elbows and flare them out to anywhere from just off the body to 90 degrees. If I want the putter to arc a lot, I might stand a little bit taller and make sure that my arms are pinched, and then that's gonna create a much wider arc. So with these orientation pieces, you can really influence what the putter's doing. So again, if you're struggling with some of these skill challenges, applying a couple of these variations of orientation and see what happens, you might really be able to find your putting stroke pretty quick. But the beauty is only do one at a time, right? Don't add piece A and B and C together, because if it doesn't work, well, which one didn't work? So it takes much longer. So I would say play elbow games first, then play maybe amount of tilt at the waist, and then maybe play around with some head orientation pieces. But again, if we can get our orientation where we're able to move the putter in space relatively predictable and deliver the putter back relative square and have a length, a condition, an amount of space, a couple inches where that putter is going to be relatively square coming into the ball, that puts all the odds in my favor to be able to hit great putts. And remember, we're not machines, we're not robots, we won't be perfect, but can we get it close enough, time and time enough to be able to make more and more putts? That's really what we're trying to achieve. So we're going to jump over to the putting board, and I'm going to walk you through these other pieces really quickly. Fun to play around with. And if you didn't have a chance, I just interviewed John Llewellyn last night. So Wednesday night. I'm going to release the podcast, I think, on Sunday after this is released. But if you haven't heard it, I really encourage you to go to YouTube and listen to it. John talks about what it takes. We talked about what it takes, kind of that next level player. He works with a bunch of LPGA players and gave some really great information about putting, about lifestyle, and all those pieces, how the best players in the world separate from maybe the best player at the club. So I think it was a really good, I thought it was a really good time, really good information being passed along. I encourage you to go watch that. So hey, let's jump over to the putting board and see what happens. Cheers.
Join us at Greens and Grain Society, where golf and whiskey unite. As an exclusive member, you'll have epic meetups and invites to the finest golf and whiskey adventures around the world. Join the best community on the planet, because passion deserves company. Greens and Grain Society. Cheers to the game, cheers to you, and find us at golfcast.com.
All right, so here we're going to kind of look at a perception game. I hope you can see all this. Right here, I have all these balls roughly in a straight line. So when I look down this pathway, as I get over the ball, I get into my proper setup. As I look in the periphery, do I see these balls going in a straight line? If I do, that's great. That means I'm on a straight putt. I see relatively straight. I'm happy. But what happens if I get there and what I see is this? Pretty straight, starting to veer, and then it starts to veer a little left. Now I know the ball is not actually going left, correct? Balls are in a straight line, but my perception is saying on this straight putt, I actually see the ball bending left, or even on the right side, I made it worse, right? Fairly straight, starting to veer, veers out a lot. I've worked with some great players. I've worked with tour players. I've worked with high-end collegians, great amateurs. I've had people, perception-wise, 8 to 10 feet on this drill, seeing 2, 3, 4 cups one way or the other. So their perception was way off. And once we fixed their perception, man, they just started nailing putts, right? So what we're going to do is once we get into this position, our good putting position, periphery, if we start to see not a straight line, kind of a divergence, we're going to play kind of take our head left and right, see if that makes a change. Go ears to shoulders, nose to chest, chin all the way up, and then a combination of the three. And what you want to do is keep moving that head around until you can perceive straight. And once you perceive straight, you roll the ball, and hopefully it goes down the line and goes in, right? So what happens, the beauty of the system is it doesn't matter how we set our head. It's not really going to affect how our body moves, but what it's going to do is affect what we perceive, right? So our head can be in a lot of really funny, goofy positions, and it won't affect how the body's actually going to work. So that is a massive key. The dangers, if I'm in, this is my normal setup, if I get further from the ball, that's going to change my view. If I get closer, but now we're setting up, now we're changing the whole entire system. We don't want to change the system. So remember, you can go nose to the shoulder, nose to shoulder, chin down, chin up, and then kind of a variation, kind of ear to shoulder, ear to shoulders. So that allows your head to kind of work in space. And again, all we want to do is be able to perceive straight. And you'll be amazed on how many of you will actually see outside of the cup. If you're seeing inside the cup, I'm happy. It's good enough. If we're seeing divergences outside of the cup, so again, if this line goes straight anywhere inside this cup, we're happy. But we start to see that divergent path out, we want to make sure that perception gets changed. Hope that was helpful.
The round may be over, but the real game starts here. Welcome to the 19th Hole Forum inside a golf cask, an exclusive members-only space where golf, whiskey, and community collide. This isn't another forum. This is where Golf Cast members connect, where we break down the game, swap whiskey stories, and talk about the passions that fuel us. Strategy, stories, swings, sips, it's all here. Pull up a chair, pour a dram, and join us inside the 19th Hole Forum, because the best conversations happen after the final putt.
So now let's talk about the big body orientation changes. Of course, if I open my hips up, if I close my hips, that's going to affect path. We want to keep that relatively neutral. But some big pieces that we really can affect the club in three-dimensional space a lot, what we want to work on is our elbow positions. So again, if we go prayer 90 degrees down here, we're in good position, right? Elbows are tucked relatively into our side, and let's get into this view, right? So that is, you can see it arcs in and it closes through, right? Now if I take my elbows and go 90 out, look how much I've changed that path. So elbows, the orientation of your elbows can really influence the path. So kind of what we say is 0 is pinned all the way in, 1 is just off, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 1 to 5. Then what I want you to do is just play with a bunch of different elbow positions and see which elbow position gives you the best chance of hitting really straight putts, right? So here I'm gonna go 5. So I'm gonna get in good position. I'm gonna go 5, and then I'm gonna go 0 or 1, pin it in really tight. So I would say neither one of those are great, right? I was unable to square the face in either direction. So then let's go in between those. Let's do kind of a 2. And for me, that is a much more comfortable position, and I like the way that is. So it's not straight, and it's not big arcing, it's somewhere in between the two. So I encourage you to play a little elbow game, find the right elbow position for you, and see which one gives you the best benefit. So again, we talked our perfect setup, so now we're gonna look at how much we bend at the waist, right? So again, prayer, 90 degrees over, really good athletic position, kind of in this position. So what happens if I bend over more? Or what happens if I get taller? Well, let's take a look. So if I bend over more and I rotate, club is getting much straighter, right? If I get really tall, club wants to work on a much more of an arc. So if I get more bent over, I'm probably gonna want my elbows out more. And if I stand really tall, I'm gonna want my elbows more to my side. Because again, if I got really tall and had my elbows like this, those pieces don't match. They're working against each other. And we don't want that in putting. So again, these are big orientation pieces that you can change how the ball or how your actual stroke, your path, can be affected by these big pieces. There's a lot more than this. And like I said, we'll circle back probably in another month or two. What we'll do is after we go short game, I'll add some of these little tidbits of orientations and pieces that you can add in the near future. So maybe not March, but probably sometime in April, we'll circle back into some of this. So again, if I can get the putter here, I can get in a good position. I'm gonna get much more bent over. I'll allow Michelle Wee get into this position. Now I can take it straight back, straight through. Here I can get really tall. And of course, again, you're starting to see I have misses with both. Then again, I'm gonna get kind of in between. Elbow position at 2. Oh, and I missed that one. Well, anyways, you get the idea between these. So again, how I start to set these pieces is massive. Also, big pieces is what risk conditions I put myself in. We'll talk about that in the future. But I would definitely say play around. If you're not real happy with the way you're striking the ball right now, or you're having some skill issues, I would say perception 1, elbows 2, bend 3. See what those orientations can bring inside your putting stroke. And again, do each one independently, because you don't want to add, it's like making a good stew. If I throw in 6 pieces and it's brilliant, awesome, but if one piece is off, the whole system's off. So I ruined a really good stew just because I put in one really bad piece. So we don't want to do that. So again, get in our good position, good elbow position. Again, I'm not a big fan of this Scotty Cameron putter. It's my son's. And make more putts. Cheers, my friends. See you on the putting green.